What's up, y'all? This is Travis, aka The Raw View. Welcome to build log number 6 of Project Wifey. Really quick, I wanted to give a shout out to all my sponsors. Corsair for providing the case, the RAM, and the power supply. EVGA for supplying the graphics card, PlayAsia.com for providing the CPU, Ice Mods for providing the cables and the LED lights, and Titan Rig for supplying the pump and reservoir combo. Links to all my sponsors can be found in the description below. So this is Project Wifey right now and the state that it's in. Now, I have part of the tubing done, and the reason why I have part of the tubing done and I didn't film it is because I was taking things apart, putting them back together, kind of trying to figure out how I want this loop to look. So I've come out with this now. So now it's going to go from the pump and reservoir combo down to the CPU, out of the CPU into the lower radiator, out of the lower rad into the GPUs, out of the GPU into the front radiator, and then back up to the pump and reservoir combo. So a couple things I need to point out with this loop and why I'm running it the way I'm running it, because it seems kind of like the long way of doing it. But something I forgot about in like the last video when I was talking about how I was going to design the loop, I forgot that these radiators actually have an inlet and outlet. Most radiators, it doesn't matter which side you go in, right? These radiators, it actually does. It affects the flow. And if you take it apart, you can see what I'm talking about, but there's a definite inlet and there's a definite outlet. And if you switch those, you'll get worse flow. So really quick, I want to talk to you guys about why I'm doing the bins with fittings. Number one, it's really just personal preference. If you're doing a build like this in a bigger case, right, there's a lot of empty space here that you kind of want to fill, right? So your options is to fill it with tubing. And if you want to fill it with tubing, you have two ways you can go, I think. Personally, this is, again, personal preference. But I think that you should fill the empty space by using thick tubing or use smaller tubing with a lot of bins with a lot of fittings, if that makes sense. Like it's the look that you want to go for, if that makes sense. So this is the look I want to go for with this build. I think it works perfectly. And y'all know this is not laziness here. A lot of people say, for whatever reason on the internet, who have no experience with water cooling computers, say that, oh, you're using fittings for bins because you're lazy and don't want a bin too. Okay, I'm going to do a whole video about this later, but if I wanted to fly through this build and just get it done, I would bin tube. It would be easy for me, okay? You know, from here to here, all it would be like a little nice, like little bin in the tube, and it would go perfectly into this, right? No, instead, this is about ½ an inch off from this fitting, right? So then I have to go through, I have to figure out what combination of fittings do I need to use up here to perfectly align it with that. That's the struggle with doing it with fittings, because if something's off by a little bit when everything's like perfect 90s, right? It becomes very noticeable in a build like this, okay? So yeah, if I wanted to do it just quick, I would bin tube. 80% of the time, I can get a bin right on the first time. 80% of the time. If it's a really, really difficult bin, maybe 3 tries, maybe. If it's something like ridiculous that has like 3 90s in it and like 2 45s, maybe 4 tries, maybe. But it's easy for me. That's my point. Bending tube is easy. When you're
2 hours later.
So, sorry, I'm gonna stop my rant. So I made some more modifications to the case. On the top panel, basically, I had to get rid of the middle tab. That way I could get off and on the top panel without actually having to remove the power supply. And I also drilled a hole kind of in the case, or half a circle in the case, so I could have access to the fill port on the top of the reservoir combo. So the only other option I had other than drilling a hole in the case would have been to use telescoping fittings and actually be able to slide the pump and reservoir out and back in. Problem with that is that I don't trust telescoping fittings. At least the ones that I've had experience with, and I don't know if this has changed, but when you slide a telescoping fitting out, right, you can slide it out all the way. There is no O-ring, there's no lip to stop it. So you can literally accidentally, if you were, say if it was stuck and you were like jiggling it out, you could literally remove that pump and reservoir combo completely, if that makes sense, and liquid just start pouring. It would not be good. So considering how tight of a fit this is in here, it wasn't going to work. Just wasn't going to be possible unless I built in somehow like a hard stop on the pump, right, by attaching something to it and then attaching something in the drive cage to actually make a hard stop. It just seemed like a lot more work than just drilling a hole in the top of the case. So right now, let's go ahead and finish the rest of the tubing. So this is the build basically. There are going to be 2 changes to the tubing. One, this piece right here will be a little bit shorter because right now the big long tube is slightly at an angle, and since this is the longest tube in the whole build, that's a no-go for me. It has to be perfectly straight. And the other thing that I'm going to change is this piece of tube right here needs to be a little bit shorter. So the inner one also needs to be just a little bit shorter. Other than that, everything's good. I'm excited. So I'm going to go ahead and change out those 2 pieces of tubing and then go ahead and start the leak test. So the leak test will be in the next video. Make sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.